Here's Goodnight Olive making her move to take the lead by a head around the far turn. Race Kane has nearly 10 lengths to make up. So does Scooby Guando, verifying the leader. Top of the stretch, Tapit Trice is coming onto the outside. Up to the mark is running late behind Master of the Seas. Set piece down the center of the course. Master of the Seas alongside Annapolis. Here's Elusive Princess coming after Maj, and Mission of Joy tries to find room between that pair. Maj has the lead. Mission of Joy second. Elusive Princess third. The champ in front. Goodnight Olive chased all the way. Tapit Trice! Tapit Trice wins the Toyota Bluegrass.
And a good Tuesday evening, everyone. Welcome into the Keeneland Look Ahead podcast. Jeremy Plonk here from Horse Player Now. Hope you're having a great Tuesday night as we get set for the look ahead for Wednesday, October 16th. It'll be week 3 of the meet. When we hit race 4 on the card, we're exactly halfway through this 17-day season. 8 days in the books. It'll be day number 9 on Wednesday. 5-day racing week, Wednesday through Sunday, this upcoming week 3. And then 4 days to wrap it up, Wednesday through Saturday on the 4th and final week. Before we get into handicapping this 8-race card, reminder, first post will be 1 o'clock Eastern. Races in the middle of the card, 4 and 5, going to be part of all the pick 4s and pick 5. So you want to do a little extra work on those handicapping. No Tyler Gaffalione over the next 2 days at Keeneland. No scheduled mounts. I've been digging around trying to figure out where Tyler is. I haven't come up with the answer yet, but he is not booked on any mounts on Wednesday or Thursday at Keeneland. He is back riding on Friday. I'm not sure if there's a personal matter there for a trip somewhere or a suspension, but I don't think he's serving any days. So we'll try to find out and we'll update you on social media on that. If anybody knows, be sure to let me know in the comments section here. But again, no Tyler Gaffalione, leading jockey here at the meet on Wednesday and Thursday. That can make for, some interesting tote and betting. I would imagine that a lot of his top mounts are going to go to other name riders. I would think that Irad Ortiz, Luis Saez, Jose Ortiz, guys who are having good meets are probably going to pick up the lion's share of the good mounts on Wednesday and Thursday. We'll look at the individual horse by horse, some of the jock changes and switches, I should say. They're all named. No Gaffalione's named for Wednesday and Thursday, but we'll see in the past performances where horses he normally would be riding aren't, and we'll kind of assess who picked up the good mounts. As far as the weather goes, it's happened all over the country all at the same time, crazily enough, but fall has broken in the last 24, 48 hours in Lexington after just, unseasonably warm 75, 80-degree days. We're back into the 50s, high of 55, partly cloudy. There was some rain on Tuesday in Lexington. No big deal to change up the conditions here. I think we'll be fast and firm for the racing on Wednesday. No forecast for rain on Wednesday either. Now, how that might impact the track, a little moisture in the track tends to tighten things up a little bit, cooler temperatures. Unless they get too cold, where there is a frost warning overnight, there would be some reluctance to water a track if you think there's going to be a frost overnight. But the racing, by the time we get to racing hours, I don't think they'll have any problem with the sunlight hitting it. So I don't think we're going to have a dry, loose, cuppy track that they don't put any water on. In terms of the way the track has played through the first 2 weeks of the meet, again, we're 2 weeks in, 2 weeks to go. So we're kind of at the halftime mark here. First week, I looked at all the sprint races, all the route races, and kind of saw where the horses were winning from in terms of position. Opening week of the meet in sprint races, the average winner was only a half length off the lead in a sprint race. In a route race, that average runner was actually on top by a half a length. Those lean above average. Now, week 2 of the meet, though, the 5-day week that we just completed, the average winner on the main track sprinting was a length and a quarter off the lead. Instead of a half length, a length and a quarter. That doesn't sound like that big of a difference, but when you get to a length and a quarter, you are exactly what the all-time average is here at Keeneland since going back to dirt in 2014 at all the common distances in sprint races. We're looking at the 6, 6.5s, and 7s, not counting the 4.5 furlong races in the spring that totally lean to speed, but a length and a quarter off the lead in normal sprint races is exactly the average over the last decade. That's what they did in week number 2. So the track got right back to normal in sprints. What about route races? Well, in the first week of the meet, now again, there were only 3 route races the first week of the meet on dirt, but again, those average winners were a half length in front. In week number 2, there were 9 races, a bigger sample size, and the average winner was 2 lengths off the lead in a route race after a half mile. Now, you say 2 lengths, what does that compare to? right on the all-time average over the last decade here at Keeneland. So the sprint and the route, a length and a quarter off the lead sprinting, 2 lengths off the lead routing. That's the averages that we see all time at Keeneland. Spring, fall put together for all the common distances, and they were right on in week number 2. So while the track may have seemed to be certainly tilted one direction or another opening weekend, certainly towards speed and blistering fast times, right? We saw some of the all-time fastest races we've seen at Keeneland. What they did maintenance-wise and weather-wise in race number 2 brought it exactly back to where it should be. Let's cross our fingers, hope we get the same thing here coming up in week number 3. But that was good to see. So if you're handicapping, it should look a lot like it did in week number 2, I would think. A little bit weather difference now. Now it's a little bit cooler, and maybe the watering patterns might change a little bit since it's not as hot and arid. But let's see how the track plays, and I would expect it to play a lot like it did in week number 2. A couple notes about where we are from, trends, stats standpoint. Horses from Saratoga have got 22 wins at the meet, 2 from the Belmont at Aqueduct meet. So Naira Shippers, 24 wins. We expect that early in the meet because of all the big races, Fall Stars weekend, and even into week number 2. As we get to week 3 and 4, we're going to see a much more stronger Kentucky influence as expected. Churchill Preppers have 18 wins, so 24 Naira, 18 to Churchill, 10 from Kentucky Downs, and Ellis Park is having a really good meet in terms of producing horses here. 7 winners from Ellis Park, which is a good number for that group. A couple hot sires doing well into mischief, as you'd always expect, with 4 wins. Twirling Candy's got 4 wins. A veteran sire. Just, the candy rides and the Twirling Candies, they just never seem to go away. They produce winners here at Keeneland. Vacoma, the 2-year-old sensational first crop sire, 3 winners already at the meet by Vacoma, and 3 by Nyquist, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner here at Keeneland. So a couple sire notes there. Really, Vacoma, Nyquist, too, I think, that stand out a little bit more. We've always seen the Into Mischiefs do well, and there are so many of them. Twirling Candy doing well here during the meet. Let's see, as we look at a couple other numbers. Well, one of the things I really want to stress about this meet and why your personal handicapping, if you're like me, might feel a little frustrating to this point. There haven't been a lot of medium-priced winners. In fact, it didn't feel like there were a lot of medium-priced winners. So I went into the database and started digging around. And is my frustration real, or is it just, anecdotal? And it's actually real. There have only been 5 winners between 5 and 7 to 1 at the meet here. We should be seeing about 11% of races won in that percentage range. So it's only been 5 out of 78. So far underperforming there. There should be about 8 or 9 of those mid-price winners. And when you look at horses who are 4 to 1 to 10 to 1, right? Those $10 to $20 horses that you're kind of looking for as a win better to make your hay. That should be happening about 1/3 of the races at Keeneland. We go back in the database here at Keeneland over the last 10 years or so, and about 1/3 of the races should be won by horses between 4 to 1 and 10 to 1. Right now, through 2 weeks, 1/5 of the races have been won by horses 4 to 1 to 10 to 1. So what's happening? We've got an inordinate amount of favorites winning so far. Obviously, anybody who's followed knows that. Favorites are 36 for 78 at the meet, 46%. That's much higher than what we're used to seeing at Keeneland. That should be in the high 30s. It's running about 10% higher than normal. The other part that's abnormal is there have been 8 winners at 20 to 1 or more. That's over 10% of the races, 78 races, 8 winners at 20 to 1 or more. Your general rule of thumb when you bet any racetrack is about 10% of the races, 1 in 10 will be won by a horse who's 10 to 1 or more. We've got over that rate and winning at 20 to 1 or more. So it's favorites or bombs, and that's really hard. If you're trying to beat a lot of favorites and you're trying to do it with those 4 to 1s to 10 to 1s, they're winning 1/5 of the races instead of 1/3 of the races. And over the course of weeks, that's going to add up into the number of winners that you're hitting and hitting at square prices. So there just haven't been a lot of those square prices. I try to live in that 5 to 1 to 7 to 1 range, and there have been exactly 5 winners in 8 racing days in that 5 to 7 to 1 range. That's hard. That's hard for me as a guy who's trying to pick those kind of horses. So as I handicap the card here and we start out on Wednesday, I didn't do this intentionally, but the way this card works out for me handicapping wise, fits what's happened the first 2 weeks of the meet. I either have favorites or insane bombs. So that's the way I'm looking at this 8-race card as we get set to handicap. Is it going to follow suit with what we've seen so far? Maybe I'm finally coming around to what's actually happening, and then maybe the law of averages will start swinging back, and I'll be missing because the 5-1, 6-1, 7-1s are going to start trucking in. But that's the way it shakes out. I never handicap based on odds. I handicap the horses I like, and then I look at the odds secondarily. I print the past performances out before the odds even come out. I do it on the day of entries, and so I don't let that influence me. And then I'll write the odds back in afterwards when I'm doing something like this, a podcast, to use them as a reference point to talk about because they're important, the morning line odds in terms of discussion. But as far as the horses I like, I don't ever just lock in on a horse because he's 12-1. In the morning line. I like the horse first, and then we try to see how the price fits. So let's go to the big picture and snapshot of the card and see how this 8-race program is going to line up. Enough lead up talk here tonight as we get set for week number 3. 8-race card, as we mentioned earlier. So the races 4 and 5 are going to overlay. Those are the swing races in the early pick 4 and the early pick 5 and the late pick 4 and the late pick 5. So you really want to put your time into races 4 and 5. Opening race starts the early pick 5. Race 2 through 5 will be the early pick 4. The pick 6 will be on races 3 through 8. Pick 6 was hit on Sunday. It'll carry over going into the card. Pick 5, the late pick 5 starts there in race number 4. So again, race number 4 is part of a little bit of everything. Race number 5 is part of everything. It starts the late pick 4. It ends the early pick 4. It's part of both pick 5 sequences. So race number 5 is really a race you'd like to have a strong opinion on. We happen to have one of our key plays of the day coming up in that one. So this looks like a good gambling card, the way it kind of lines up, if we're right. We also have a key play coming up in races 3 and 6 on the card. Toyota Super High Five is going to wrap things up on the program. No carryover into that one. So let's get going here as week number 3 starts. A reminder, Saturday, the Perryville Stakes and the Raven Run. Sunday, the Dowager. Those are the feature races as we get into the 3rd week of the meet. To the Handicappers Consensus box, you can get this at Keeneland.com. Be sure to download it, print it. It's got an easy print function if you want to keep an eye on that, or you can check it out on your phone at Keeneland.com on the mobile site too. So get the handicapping selections from all the public handicappers as we work across the way. I mentioned I like favorites and bombs on this card. The way it worked out, the favorites come early. So not a lot of prices for me early in the program, and several of the handicappers are kind of in this same boat. Good Like Magic, top pick here, even money in the morning line for Brad Cox. Big class dropper here. Sired by Good Magic's got some early speed. Pratt aboard. This horse should get right to the front or darn near the front. There's really not much speed in this race at all. I can't see who runs with this horse early. So it should be a wire-to-wire job at a very short price. Good Like Magic should stand out here. Stingy, top pick in here for Gabby Gaudet, for trainer Brittany Van Berg, off the claim. Question for me was 6 furlongs. This horse has run longer in previous races. Did show a little bit of pace here at a mile and a 16th, going for 50 in April. So Stingy likes the track. That was a good effort. It was just too far at the mile and a 16th. Cuts back in trip, a Medaglia d'Oro Tappet. Plenty of stamina there. Stingy should run okay, and I've got that one in the top 3. Hoppin' John, I should say, is my middle choice in here. I thought this was a late running sprinter by Midnight Loot. The longer races weren't, you would think this horse, he's running well late in sprints. He'll stretch out and route. He didn't do so as well, I don't think, in the route races. Ran faster on figures, going short, and now they cut back and trip. So Hoppin' John should be rallying past some other horses in the chasers. He's by Midnight Loot, a sire who does really well here at Keeneland. So 6-1-5, the way I've got race number 1. I don't look at it as a huge gambling opportunity. 6-1 exacta may not be bad. I don't think the one Hoppin' John's going to get bet that hard. So you could start off with an exacta in this particular race and have yourself a chance to, maybe click something in the $14, $16, $18 range. I don't think 6-1 is going to be in the $8, $10 range, but it's not going to be anything large. And you're not really looking to daily doubles here either, because I think we've got a favorite in the second race as well. Now that's going to start the early pick 5 with a likely single. So maybe the pick 4, isn't really a play today, because if you can get a single in the pick 5, even if it's an obvious horse, your pick 5 always pays much better than the pick 4 does, even when you get what looks to be a rather free bingo space in the opener with the Brad Cox horse. So I really wouldn't recommend playing a pick 4 on races 2 through 5 today. I would say go ahead and roll into the pick 5 and just, don't play the early pick 4. Make sure you just go after the pick 5, take the single in the first leg, and take that little bit of extra extra value that's thrown in there. Is there risk involved? Sure, there are no sure things, but the right gamble here, I think, is to pick 5 over the pick 4. Pick 4 does start in race number 2, so if you get knocked out in race number 1 and you want to wheel back, that would be the opportunity maybe to play the pick 4. This is a maiden claiming 2-year-old race, a mile and a 16th, so 2-turn effort here. They'll finish at the 16th pole finish line in this particular spot. And number 4, Deeply Hidden, is my top choice in here. Kent Sweezy, Irad Ortiz team up. Sweezy's had a good meet, had a couple nice prices, or a nice winner already. This horse comes out of a race at Del Mar against Getaway Car, a horse who went on to be a stakes winner next out for Bob Baffert. Chased that one and faded at Del Mar, but there's no speed to the inside here. G. Eric, the 1, Mr. Lee, the 2. Great day for Hockey, the 3. They have no speed at all. This horse stretching out sprint the route with Ortiz. It's just going to go, I think, flying out of there. Blinkers on, speed to the rail, and Deeply Hidden is going to go as far as he can. By cloud computing, a Preakness winner, yes, you would think maybe the distance won't be an issue, but the bottom of the pedigree does lean to sprint. So how far will Deeply Hidden want to go? That will be the question, but I think he's just the best horse in this particular spot on the class drop with the pace advantage. I don't see anybody to go with him early. Il Marchis, maybe the 7, would be second out of the gate. Hard Spun's had a good meet as a sire on the turf so far at Keeneland this meet, but the Hard Spuns are running pretty well right now. Mr. Lee, or I should say G. Eric, my second choice in here. So let's just take it 4, 1, and 6. I don't look at this as a great gambling race because I'm not a big fan of any of these other horses. I think the 4 is going to gut everybody, and anybody chasing is going to get tired. I thought the 1 G. Eric on the class drop maybe could close and do a little bit of something, passing some horses, but I don't like this as an exacta race. I do like it, though, as a daily double because from race 2 to race number 3, we're also letting the field size work for us. We've got a big field in race number 3 of 12 horses. Again, there's only 8 horses in race number 2. If you like the 4 Deeply Hidden, it's probably going to be too short of a price to bet the win. 2-1 in the morning line, may go lower than that. There's only 7 combinations for the exacta under the favorite. So look to the daily double where there are 12 possibilities in race number 3 if you can work out an opinion. And I do have one in there, one of my first key plays of the day. Race number 3 is going to start the pick 6, and it is my first of 3 keys on the program. Before we start handicapping this race, I do want to let you know on the also eligible list, the 14 is a horse, Antique Silver, that you're absolutely going to have to consider if this horse draws into the race. Big class dropper. It's Ramon Vasquez, David Jacobson. We've already seen him do this thing a couple times at the meet. So Jacobson's dropping horses in at big prices. I would definitely consider the 14 who's on the AE list if this horse does draw in to use, but I would still pick my horse on top, and I would use the 14 on the underneath spots. We'll update scratches and changes in the morning and maybe update that top 3 if that happens. But I like the 4 in here, 3 Pokes quite a bit. Also Tom Leach's top pick and Gabby Gaudet. So I don't know, 5-1 in the morning line. Maybe we won't get that price, but this is a class dropper for trainer John Ortiz. Easily the best maiden win in this non-winners of 2 claimer lifetime. This horse won here during the October 23 fall meet in wire-to-wire fashion. Maiden special going 7. Going to be forwardly placed. Always has good speed in here. 3 Pokes to me, I think, is a wire-to-wire candidate in here. But the 1 Devil of Paradise, cheap speed from Belterra with blinkers on, could press the pace early on. I don't think the horse is going to get an easy lead in here. There'll be others that want to run. The 10 Sombra Dorada's got some speed. And you never know what the Canterbury horse is going to do, cutting back and trip. But the 11 Valhalla Vixen could also show a little bit early pace in here. But I think 3 Pokes is just better than these, classier. And John Ortiz, a trainer to watch here during week 3 of the meet. I've got a couple trainer stats here that are kind of interesting. I run the database through and just look at week 3 of the Keeneland meet over the last 3 years. Names with the most wins with 7 wins you'd expect: Brad Cox, Mike Maker, Wesley Ward. That makes a lot of sense. 5 wins for Steve Asmussen, Kenny McPeak. Asmussen's a little higher than what we're used to seeing at Keeneland in the fall. He doesn't win a big number of races, so his barn's got enough volume and he saved some horses for later. Asmussen, a guy to watch this week. But then with 4 wins, Norm Cassie and John Ortiz. Interesting that they've got horses week 3 that have had a lot of success over the last couple of years. Expect them to win a race or 2 this week. John Ortiz might get it right away here with 3 Pokes. If you wait to week 3 or you wait to week 4, it's strategic because the quality of competition gets easier as the meet goes on here at Keeneland. Everybody wants to win right out of the box. If you do really well opening week, you might even have a shot to run back later in the meet if you run in the first 2 weeks. So these guys who wait for week 3 and week 4 can have some success and do it repeatedly. And we've seen that in the past. Norm Cassie and John Ortiz, 2 trainers that aren't amongst those big names, right? The other guys I mentioned are all guys who kind of everybody knows and everybody's going to bet. And people know who John Ortiz and Norm Cassie are, but they don't take money on the board because they're John Ortiz or Norm Cassie, right? It's only their horses that get bet, where some of the other trainers, just their name in the program alone is going to drop the price on them. So watch out here. We've got one for John Ortiz, 3 Polks, race number 3, the 4-horse, one of my key plays of the day. So let's try to get to him in a daily double, race 2 to race 3. We'll take advantage of that race number 2 favorite, deeply hidden, and just go with a 4-4 daily double, races 2 to 3. That'll be one of my key plays. And then we got 4 with the 10-8 horses that you want to look at for the exotics. I would also throw the 9 Sister Ella in there, 4 over the 8, 9, and 10. That's an exacta key box, trifecta key, maybe 4 with the 8, 9, 10 with all, 4 with all with 8, 9, 10. The 8 Smart with Heart is a big bomb, 20 to 1 in the morning line. I know the horse is only 1 for 14 lifetime, but ran a good race over this track at 9 to 2 in the spring in a very similar spot. And again, this is a horse who doesn't have to be up near the front, but can certainly press the pace. You don't want to be too far off of it on this track. And there's excuses for recent races. There were turf efforts in there. You had an off the turf race. They were running 5, 5.5, a little too sharp. Smart with Heart, I think, is an interesting runner in here with Belterra connections. Not going to get bet in 20 to 1 in the morning line. So I'm going to try to get the 8 mixed in. So if I can get the 4, 8 all, 4 all 8, if we can get the 8 to hit somewhere on the underside of the ticket, I think we've got a chance in here to do a little damage with one of our best bets. The 14, again, Antique Silver, you're going to have to work that horse into your consideration if the 14 happens to draw into the race. Next up, race number 4 starts the late pick 5 swing race here in the early pick 5 and the late pick 5, part of the early pick 4 as well. Let's go to our selections here in race number 4. It's a non-winners of 2 lifetime, 6.5 furlong sprint. Up on the edge, top choice in here for 4 of the 5 handicappers. Up on the edge, 7 to 2 in the morning line. Doesn't look like we're going to get that kind of price. Third choice in the morning line, but 4 or 5 handicappers going in on this one. Up on the edge, cuts back from Ellis Park, elbow start, 1 turn mile. Now goes to the 6.5 furlong trip here at Keeneland. Has run at Keeneland a couple times. Has run decent in maiden specials. Wasn't great, but certainly didn't look like the horse, can't handle the racetrack. Ron Moquette and Luis Saez team up in a race where we're not looking at a lot of huge percentage kind of big name barns in this race. Solid connections in there up on the edge, but I don't have a strong opinion in here. And I certainly would not want to take an underlay price. So this horse is 7 to 2 in the morning line. If they bet the one up on the edge down too far, I could either just completely pass the race. I can look at doubles with the 4-3 Polks, and then I'm not really worried too much about maybe if the horses are over bet, but double in race number 3 to race 4, a 4-1 double would make some sense. But the one up on the edge will be my top pick in here. Number 2, Crickle. Just seems like too short of a price for me for a horse who's 1 for 18. 5 to 2 in the morning line, and maybe that's what everybody happened here because, Crickle's top choice in here for Scott, but, we can all look at the past performance lines and see 1 for 18 and say, why would you take a short price on a horse for 1 for 18 lifetime? So Crickle, we might all have defaulted to the same idea of, there are 2 or 3 main contenders in this race, the 1, the 2, the 4, according to the morning line, those are at 5 to 2, 3 to 1, and 7 to 2. Why take the shortest price when that horse is 1 for 18 lifetime? The lack of creativity maybe on our part all landed us on the same horse, but that's kind of the reasoning I think what happened. And will the public be the same way? Will the public go back on Crickle, the horse who is 1 for 18 lifetime? This horse has been 7 to 1, 3 to 1, 18 to 1, 12 to 1, 18. This horse has never been bet, hasn't been the favorite in any of the 12 starts showing on the past performances. So Crickle may be one of those that drifts up in price. Maybe he's the right horse and maybe you end up getting an overlay on it. Maybe we're all doing the wrong thing by trying to beat him. But at 1 for 18, I'll try to beat him here. He does have the co-best maiden win in this race. He won one of the restricted maiden specials at Churchill Downs, the same as Animal Fries did. The 8. So the 2 and the 8 have the 2 best maiden wins in this non-winners of 2 lifetime claimer. I'm not wild about the 8 in this particular spot, though, even with that handicapping angle. As for the other horses in here, again, 1, 2, 4 in some combination is pretty popular around the way. The 5 Sassy Walker also gets a little bit of love in the second spot from a couple handicappers, 12-1 on the morning line on that one via Churchill Downs. But not a great race, not a strong opinion in there. I would say between the 1, the 2, and the 4, try to find yourself the best price if you're going to play intra race. But if you're looking at daily doubles, maybe you go to 3 Polks in race number 4 and you play 3-1, 3-2, 3-4, take 3 shots at the double. And also consider a daily double into one of my best bets of the day, 1-2-4 in this race into race number 5, where we get our second key play of the day. Our second key play of the day comes up here in the 5th, which starts the late pick 4. Race number 5 is a key race on the program, a keystone, a swing race, if you will. This is part of the early pick 5, the late pick 5, the early pick 4, the late pick 4, and I've got an upset special in here. Look, this is a turf sprint going 5.5 on the grass. I love the 3-4-5 posts. They've had an excellent meet. I think we've had 5 races this meet where there have been a full field, 12 horses in the in a turf sprint, and the power posts have won 3 of those at a nice, huge profit. So I want to go in 3-4-5 if I can. I look this race, Arch Street the 3, Royal Shipper the 4, and Harbor Springs the 5. Between them have never run on the turf. So I don't know what to make of that. So I'm not going to just rely on the post position getting 3 horses home who have never run on turf. And 2 of them are at, or one of them is at a shorter price, Royal Slipper the 4. Respect for that one. Hasn't run since the Desi Arnaz Stakes at Del Mar last fall, but off a long layoff coming back for trainer Wesley Ward. Ward's kind of been slumpy here to start the meet. Not a typical Wesley Ward meet here at Keeneland. I don't think you have to take a short price on Royal Slipper. I love the post, but he's got to work out the trip. Arch Street the 3, the 5 Harbor Springs. Neither one of them to me are going to offer the value they should. Irad Ortiz, Frankie Dettori on those 2. They're going to take money. I'm just not wild about the 3-4-5 necessarily in this spot. I got a long shot I do like, though, and let's go to the picks and the handicappers consensus, and nobody else is on my horse in here, and I didn't think they would be, and I'm happy to see that. We are on the island. There's a damn good reason why we're on the island, because Carlos Santa Maria, the trainer of Bella Hayes, is 1 for 60 this year. So we're trying to get a horse home who's 1 for 60 on the year for the trainer. We better get a price. Well, the board tells us here that we're going to get a price. The 30-1 morning line tells us we're going to get a price. I've got this race 10, 6, and 4. Spun Moon, my second choice, is picked on top by 3 players. Spun Moon's going to get a good post position in here in the 6th hole. Brian Lynch, rock solid, the most reliable horse in the race in a turf sprint, right? We talked about the 3, 4, and 5 have never run on the turf. The 6 Moon Spun is a turf sprinter. Everything he does is turf sprint, or she does, and everything she's done has been good to this point. She's run 5 times, never beaten far. She's top 3 in all 5 of those races. Brian Lynch off to a good start at the meet. You get Luis Saez. There's everything to like about the 6. The 6 is the most logical player and the most logical winner in the race, but does have 4 second and third place finishes, and the only win came by a neck. So she doesn't have a lot of margin to play with, right? She's not going to lay over the field. She just looks like the most reliable horse, and that's why I picked the most reliable horse second. Okay, so why did I pick a 30-1 on top in this race? Bella Hayes. This is a trip handicapping note. I went back and watched the race last time at Ellis Park, and you get a in tight, steadied 8th pole comment in the past performances, and you say, okay, did it cost this horse anything? It's 7-1. It sure looks like it from the running lines. The horse was up in the race, running 3rd, and end up 5th, beaten 7 after where the trouble would show up in the past performance lines. I actually didn't think the trouble in the stretch was that big of a deal. The big deal for this horse was earlier in the race, which isn't noted in the past performances, got sawed off by the front runner, broke from the rail, big field of 12 from the rail. The rail's a horrible spot to be in a turf sprint with a big field. And this horse got sawed off going into the far turn, lost all position, made another run to get back up, and you just don't even really see it between calls in there. I thought it was a really good effort. And when you look at this horse's one race at Keeneland back in October of 2023, last fall, was running in the Jessamine Stakes and went right to the front on the turf. This horse ran well here at Keeneland in the Jessamine Stakes, backed up in the stretch to run 4th, beaten 4. Buku won that race coming from out of the clouds, if you recall. This filly only got beat 4 lengths, ran 4th. She likes the track. Her recent form isn't good, but if she wakes back up over this turf course, and this is the first time she really gets the turf sprint with a chance. Her other races on the turf are good, going long. She's always shown speed. She's shown affinity for the grass. I think she would have maybe run much better in that race at Ellis, where she just ran 5th. if she didn't get sawed off going into the far turn. Go back and watch the replay. You'll see what I'm talking about. You get Adam Beschitzer riding, a good jock who wants to try to save some ground. She's pretty fast out of the starting gate, even going short. I don't know what she can do against these turf sprinters in terms of positioning. Maybe she'll be fourth or fifth. I hope she doesn't get hung too far wide. You need a price to bet a 1 for 60 trainer. We're getting 30 to 1. And, look, even if Keeneland Look Ahead Nation sends it in on her, she's still gonna be 20 to 1. I mean, there's just too much big money in the pot from the cause and everybody else to play a horse like this. So we're gonna get a price, even though you say, why are you telling everybody about a 30 to 1 shot? Well, I'm honest, that's the first reason. And the second reason is bet away. I want you to hit, I want to hit, and I'd be happy with 20, 22 to 1. We don't have to go all the way to 50 or so. But look, let's try to get a price here. It's been chalk or bombs, right? I mean, over 10% of the races at this meet, 8 out of 78, have been horses 20 to 1 or more. Why not us, and why not this time here in race number 5? So let's take a shot there in the 5th with Bella Moon, one of my key plays of the day. Certainly don't mess up and just play exotics and pick 4s and pick 5s if you got a long shot. Make sure you get some win money on a horse at a price like that, and then build out your exotic. So I'm with the 5. Definitely trust the 6 in there. Moon Spun would definitely get some exacta boxes. If I'm playing multi-race wagers, this race could just blow up underneath. Otherwise, it's too deep for me. Too deep as in TWO. I'm going too deep in here with the top 2 choices. So as far as the pick 4s, pick 5s go here in race number 5, let's go 10 and 6. The 6 is very reliable, but like I said, she doesn't have a lot of margin to work with in terms of her past performances. If the other horses from the power post beat me, I'm guessing which one of the 3 will like the turf. So I would have to use all 3. So I'm either going from 2 deep to 5 deep, or I just got to stick out with 2. And I actually like the price horse, and I really do trust the 6. I just think somebody might nip her the way she's run a lot of her races. So let's go 2 deep here in race number 5. To the 6th race we go, and 6th race on the card is our 3rd key play on the program. This is a 1 1/8 mile race on the main track. First level allowance. We don't get a lot of 1 1/8 mile races on the main track outside of the stakes ranks, of course. A lot of the big stakes races at Keeneland, the Spinster, the Bluegrass Stakes, the Fayette, 1 1/4 or 1 1/8 type races here on the main track. But we don't get a lot of that in the allowance ranks, especially in an entry level allowance. The reason I like the 10 in here, Doral Unbridled, as one of my key plays of the day, is the pedigree. This horse has class to run 9 furlongs. And I think the farther the horse runs, the more important the pedigree is. And in this kind of race, some of these horses just aren't going to be able to get the trip. They're not built for 9 furlongs. Doral Unbridled will handle it. By Medaglia d'Oro and out of Unbridled Forever. There's just an excellent pedigree here. 2nd dam won the Kentucky Oaks. The 1st dam, Unbridled Forever, was a major graded stakes winner going short and long. Medaglia d'Oro, of course, a tremendous sire. So give me the 10, Doral Unbridled. First time this horse stretched out around 2 turns. If you look at the running lines, 1 turn, 1 turn, 1 turn, first 3 races. First time around 2 turns at Churchill, broke the maiden last time. Now we get to go even farther and kind of let that pedigree shine in here. So I'm going to go with the 10, Doral Unbridled, 6 to 1 in the morning line for Ignacio Correas. Doral Unbridled, my top choice in here in a race where Generous Tipper gets some love from some of the handicappers. Think Big, Lips Say Bliss. So 4 different horses picked on top from the 5 handicappers in here. I've got Generous Tipper, the one who's got 2 top choices in here as my 2nd pick in here. Generous Tipper, a horse who ran 3rd in the Breeders' Futurity here last fall, has only had 1 start since. An even effort at Churchill in a race that didn't have a ton of pace. I mean, 111 in 1 for that Churchill September meet. On the moderate side for 6 furlongs. So just an even effort. Generous Tipper could certainly improve 2nd start off the layoff. If you look at that horse, Generous Tipper's 2nd career race, which was the 2nd race of the form cycle, as you'd say, was a major improvement. Went from 5th to 2nd, improved the buyer by 48 points in the 2nd career start. So I would expect Generous Tipper to move forward in here. 10-5, the 2 I like in here. The 8, Yellow Brick, looks okay, but a horse who's going to be coming from way out of it. Doesn't have any speed whatsoever, I don't think. And so I think you get through here with the 10 and the 5, and I wouldn't go any deeper than that. Unbridled Doral and Generous Tipper. And Think Big, Lips Say Bliss. We'll see what Maggie and Scott say about their top choices on the Today at Keeneland show, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to tune in for that on the simulcast feed and around local TV there and in Lexington to get their reasoning on their picks there in the co-featured 6th race. Let's go to the 7th on the card. 7th race won't start any of the multi-race wagers. We do have a late daily double, of course, on races 7 and 8. Reminder, the low takeout daily doubles at Keeneland, now just 15%. So good value there. This is a 1.5-mile turf marathon in this race where two of the horses in here that are going to take a lot of money, the 5 and the 11, I've got underneath in this spot, 6-. I'd rather be blessed. They just feel more like horses that are going to run underneath than win. You know, you've got with 6- horse who's got 3 wins, but 9 seconds and thirds from the 24 races. And if you just look, the horse just kind of stops in the stretch and doesn't finish it off, flattens out. So 6- is a horse who's going to get bet with Irad Ortiz for Pletcher, 5-1 in the morning line, and just might run second or third again. Just kind of feels that way. Same with the 11. I'd rather be blessed. This is a horse who's got a little bit better win record. 4 for 20 isn't bad, but 9 seconds and thirds. And if you look at the recent races, the 1.5-mile races have flattened out at the end. Once at Churchill on the dirt, last time at Kentucky Downs, both times lost ground in the stretch, a couple lengths. I'm not so sure this horse is going to handle the 1.5 miles. So at 9-2 in the morning line, the 11, I'd rather be blessed. I think is going to be right there. The 5 is going to be right there. Somebody's going to get him in this particular spot. And I think it's going to be with the last laugh, number 12, Better Bet. Now, this horse is 7-2 in the morning line, so it's not like we're fishing for a price here. Better Bet may end up the favorite, but the two challengers in here, the 5 and the 11, are horses who I just don't think are going to come with the strong final kick. Now, interesting, the 7, King Curlin, picked by 3 of the handicappers on top here. King Curlin's 8-1 in the morning line. Kim, Gabby, and Tom all going with King Curlin in this particular spot. I got to be honest, this is one I didn't give a ton of consideration to, but has run well over the course here at Keeneland. Brittany Vandenberg sends this one off the class drop off a couple stakes races. Maybe should have given this one a little bit longer look as we talk about this race. You know, maybe the 7 is a better option in here than the 5 and the 11, but I still like Better Bet on top in here. A horse who's run well here at the 1.5-mile trip at Keeneland. Saratoga Stakes winner over the summer. Throw the Kentucky Downs race out last time. Wasn't a bad effort at Kentucky Downs. And it's another Justify running over the turf here at Keeneland. You know, I've been chasing those this meet. They've run pretty well for us. We're looking to get over the top with a couple wins with those horses who've run a couple really good seconds, and still statistically over the past year or two, the Justifies have done a really, really good job on the turf here at Keeneland. So give me the 12 in there, but maybe we move the 7 up a little more into our considerations. If the 5 or 11 were to scratch for sure, I would definitely move the 7 up into my top 3. But if I'm gambling on this race, you know, I'll use the 7 in there as well, probably, as we get a little bit closer. See how the tote board plays out. But 12 over the 5, 11, 7. I don't have a lot of other options in there that I'm too wound up about. Let's go to the final race on the card. Race number 8, Toyota Super High 5 is offered in this race. And, you know, this is a gimmick distance, a 1.125 maiden claimer. We got that 1.125 allowance race earlier where I said, you know, you want pedigree because you want horses with some quality and allowance company who can get the 9 furlongs. When you've got a maiden claimer going 1.125, this is just like an admission of slowness. You know, it's like I always say, nobody wants to be in a route maiden claimer. You just end up there. If you're fast, you win. You know, you break your maiden quicker, and you don't end up in these route races. If you got some class about you, you're in the maiden special weight ranks, and we don't want to drop you. If we're willing to drop you and we have to run you long, that means you just need to find the slower friends, and that's why horses end up in these maiden claiming 20s going a route of ground. Now, going 1.125, that's even more extreme in here. I've looked back in the database. We have actually had 15 of these races over the years, over the last decade. So you get 1 or 2 a year. Favorites are 0 for 15 at this gimmick distance in the maiden claiming ranks with these kind of races. So, you know, take a short price at your own peril. And we've talked about how horses 20-1 or more have won over 10% of the races at the meet, while the favorites are, you know, knocking it out of the park. You could take a short price in this race, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go for a price in here. We're being a little risky today. Like I said, we've got some favorites, but then we've got some horses that we think are going to be big bombs. Nobody else has number 5, Uncle Tuffy, in their top 3. I can probably understand that. There's not a ton to love about Uncle Tuffy, but I think there's just enough that we can get a little bit excited about this son of Always Dreaming. Okay, we've got connections that Horseshoe Indianapolis connections, Maria Pinzon out of the Thoroughbred Center there in Lexington. Ayala in the saddle. Look, we got low percentage connections, right? 7% jockey, 7% trainer. We better get a price on Uncle Tuffy, but we're going to make the case for him. Uncle Tuffy is a horse who is going sprint to route, stretching out to the 1.125 miles. Sire Always Dreaming, of course, a Kentucky Derby winner. Damn side of the pedigree out of Majestic Warrior Mare. We're not playing this horse because of the pedigree. We're playing because two things. One, the horse gets Lasix for the first time, and also in the career debut at Keeneland, debuted here in the spring meet. This is the late blooming 3-year-old who didn't make it to the races until late April, the end of the meet here at Keeneland, and debuted second, going 2 turns. We do not see many maiden special weight routers run well here, first asking at Keeneland. So for this horse, who was 18-1, not a lot thought of him, to run a decent second in the career debut to Surface to Air, who went on to be a pretty decent horse. I thought the horse ran well over the track, then took a break from June to August, has come back with a turf race, tossed that out, a sprint race in the slop that was just decent, mid-pack, middling kind of race, but it wasn't horrible. Now we get to go long. Now we get back to Keeneland and we get Lasix. We've got enough there to build a little case to consider a horse at 20-1. I wouldn't take a short price on Uncle Tuffy, but in a race that's a gimmick, right? This is a 9-furlong maiden claimer. This is a gimmick race. None of these horses belong or should be in this race or were ever pointed to be in this race. They just ended up here. I'll take the 5 Uncle Tuffy at a price. The 2 Indy Charge was meant to be something a lot better than this. A high price ticket on a Take Charge Indy. The Dam Sire is awesome again. The Grandsire is AP Indy. I mean, look, this horse is bred to run 1.25 miles plus. So the 1.125 miles should fit, but Indy Charge's last 3 races hasn't kind of gone the wrong direction. I got like that line in my past performances that like each performance gets a little bit worse. So Indy Charge for me is a horse that you got to consider on class and pedigree, dropping out of the maiden specials. Just might outclass this bunch, but I'm not taking a short price to find out there. Robbie Medina trains looking for his first win of the meet. Giroux rides. This horse has speed. Giroux likes to go to the front. In a race that's 1.125 miles out of the 2-hole. I expect the 2 to go right to the front in here. See how far he can go, but he hasn't done much in the last couple starts. Really backed up big time, beating 27, beating 45. Look, that maiden special at Horseshoe Indianapolis isn't world beaters in there, and the front 2 beat the rest of the field by 19 that day. Maybe the 2 is okay, and in this particular spot, it's just better, but I'm not taking a short price to find out. Indy Charge top pick for Tom and Scott. I can see why anybody would pick the horse on top. I've got him second, so not dogging anybody taking him. I just don't want the short price. And I found the long shot I like in a race that feels like it could be a long shot race. So 5, 2, and 12 for me. Do we want to use the 12 active duty if we get into a pick 4, pick 5? That would be a question. This horse has run, okay, once at Keeneland, once poorly at Keeneland. No early speed at all. Certainly the pedigree by Medaglia d'Oro out of a Curlin mare. The pedigree's there, but 0 for 15 lifetime from the 12 hole. Yeah, I'd toss the 12 on the win end. Maybe the 12 passes some horses and gets some pickup, but the 2's probably on the front and just too classy for these, or we're right about the long shot with the 5. So it's either a favorite or a bomb. And isn't that kind of been the theme of the meet and how we started this whole conversation? And look, we're not trying to make these things happen. We're just trying to assess what's already happened and get with the program, right? And so if that's the way the meet is going to continue to play out, where it's favorites or bombs, you kind of get that whole microcosm in the last race where it might be just that, where the favorite's too good with the class, the speed inside, and they just go, or it's a bomb, and maybe we can get it home, Uncle Tuffy. So a couple long shots to look at on this program. Not a ton of confidence on that one in the last race. We didn't make it one of our key plays, but we're going to take a swing on the way out on the Get Out Special. That's going to wrap up our preview for day number 8 of the meet coming up on Wednesday. We'll be back on Wednesday night, 8:30 Eastern, to preview Thursday's card. Thursday's card will feature 9 races. Again, no Tyler Gaffalione leading jockey, not riding at Keeneland on Wednesday or Thursday. We're going to try to figure out why. We've got a couple feelers out there, but we haven't heard back on it during the dark days at the track to get confirmation on that. So no Tyler Gaffalione, but it's not any changes that are coming out of the program. He was not in the entries for either day and not expected to be here. So he will be back on Friday, but could make for some good betting with the top jockey not riding here over the next couple days. That'll wrap it up. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody. Take care.